In everyone's life, there is undoubtedly a dream or aspiration that they carry within themselves. Whether extravagant or simple, dreams always serve as a driving force that motivates people to take action, to overcome challenges and personal limitations, and to gradually fulfill those dreams. Dreams do not discriminate between genius and the less fortunate. All that matters is your diligence, determination, and the refusal to give up. If you work hard and stay persistent, your dreams will come to you. Today, I bring you a movie adapted from the famous manga, One Piece, with the main character being Luffy. His dream is to become the Pirate King, but his journey is not a solitary one. He's accompanied by the Straw Hat Pirates. Each member of the Straw Hat Pirates has their own painful past, but within each of them lies unique and wonderful dreams. Alongside Luffy, what will this pirate crew do to achieve their dreams? The movie features moments that will make you laugh until tears roll down your cheeks, but intertwined with that are timeless profound lessons that might require a lot of tissues. So, get your popcorn ready and join me in exploring the hilarious journey of this group of pirates. In Logatown, 22 years ago, a historic event took place. The world government, after a long and relentless pursuit, captured the man known as the Pirate King, Gold Roger. However, it was revealed that he was terminally ill and willingly surrendered to the Navy for his execution. As he faced his impending death, Roger disclosed the location of all his treasures, his fame, his power, and everything he had, except for one thing. He left it all out at sea, waiting for fans to discover. After his final words, Roger was promptly executed and removed from the pirate server. But his last words changed the world. A new era of pirates was born, and people began to rush to the seas in search of a legendary treasure known as One Piece. The cheerful guy in the straw hat you're looking at is none other than Luffy, the main character of today's movie. Luffy, driven by the dream in his heart, is on a quest to find One Piece and become the Pirate King. The vast and treacherous seas haven't deterred him, and he's endured hardships from the very beginning, even before his ship set sail. When he asked a seagull to be his friend and it looked at him strangely, he didn't mind and let it fly away. As the ship started to sink, with no shame at all, he toppled over a barrel of fish, jumped in, and set sail, beginning his first adventure on the high seas. But Luffy's journey didn't stop there. A black-pink ship was firing cannons and attacking a smaller ship. The captain of this smaller ship was not a beautiful woman, but someone the crew secretly admired and remembered. It was none other than Alvida, a female pirate who looked a bit tough but had a bounty of 5 million belly. With her crew in abundance, she quickly defeated all the sailors on the other ship and looted all their treasures, along with a barrel containing Luffy. When she asked the crew on the ship about the handsome pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro, she was informed that he had set sail for Sixus Island, but after that, no one knew his whereabouts. She also inquired about who Zoro would be hunting from the list of wanted pirates and their bounties. She had hoped to see her name at the top of the list for Zoro to chase, but it turned out her name wasn't even on it. Upon hearing this, she swiftly gave the old man a headshot. One evening, while cleaning their weapons, Kobe stumbled upon Luffy, who was acting all cheerful and lively. Luffy introduced himself as a pirate, but Kobe didn't believe him because in his mind, pirates were ruthless criminals who plundered and killed. However, Luffy explained that not all pirates were the same, and the ones he knew were quite different. Returning to the past in the Windmill Village 10 years ago, Luffy was always eagerly waiting for his idol, Shanks, with his red hair. He wanted to prove himself as a strong pirate to join Shanks' crew. When Shanks didn't acknowledge him, Luffy went off somewhere and found a defiant sword, then boldly slashed a deep scar across his face to show his determination. On board the ship, Luffy gave Kobe a life lesson, advising him not to fear anyone and to fight back when necessary. He shared his dream of finding One Piece and becoming the Pirate King. However, Kobe warned against pursuing One Piece, as it lay in the treacherous Grand Line, essentially a graveyard for pirates. As they were talking, they heard Alvida's snoring, sounding like a sea monster. Both quickly left following Kobe's lead. While everything seemed calm, Luffy accidentally made a loud noise. Upon encountering Alvida, Luffy introduced himself as Monkey D. Luffy and told her to remember his name because he would become the Pirate King. Kobe was nervous, and Luffy protected him from Alvida's attack using his rubber abilities. When a crew member on the ship shot at Luffy, the bullet bounced back, killing him. Luffy used his rubber powers to stretch and grab a rope to evade the attack. Then, he allowed Alvida to destroy her own ship, emphasizing that messing with him was one thing, but harming his friend Kobe was another. He then extended his arm to knock Alvida out before continuing on their journey. On the island of Sixus, Zoro was lighting a candle for someone he had known a long time ago. Suddenly, a stranger appeared, introducing himself as CR7. He represented a group of assassins called Baroque Works and had come to recruit Zoro due to his exceptional skills. However, Zoro's favorite number was not 7 but 1. When Zoro declined, CR7 drew his sword to attack. Zoro easily evaded his attacks with a few steps backward. Then, he unsheathed 2 swords and executed some basic moves that threw County Route 7 off balance. Finally, with both swords in hand, Zoro swiftly cut the man into 2 pieces. Out on the open sea, Kobe was rowing the boat and asked Luffy how he managed to stretch like rubber. Luffy continued his story with a long tale. After he had a fit of temper, just like the character Kai Fio, Shanks stitched up Luffy's face. Luffy mentioned that he was lucky it was just his face and not his eyes. Otherwise, he'd be like the one-eyed siblings, Uncrush. Despite causing injury, Shanks continued to tease him. Frustrated, Luffy went down to the storeroom and found a treasure chest containing a beautiful fruit known as a devil fruit. Without hesitation, Shanks encouraged him to eat it. At the pub, they were having a good time when a troublemaker arrived. The crew prepared for a fight, but Shanks intervened and cleaned up, even though the troublemaker taunted them. From a distance, Luffy watched and asked why Shanks laughed when the obnoxious guy insulted him. Shanks explained that he spilled his drink on him. In this society, one should be polite and composed, and, most importantly, kind. Luffy looked at Shanks and told him he was a coward for letting the troublemaker go. Shanks grabbed his hand, and Luffy's arm stretched out. Luffy's power was the result of eating the gum-gum fruit, which turned his body into rubber. Kobe thought Luffy was foolish for not having a map and not knowing their location while wanting to reach the Grand Line. He questioned his decision to leave Alvida's crew to follow Luffy. Luffy asked Kobe what he wanted to do, and Kobe thought it was foolish, but Luffy knocked some sense into him. In a trembling voice, Kobe said he wanted to join the Navy to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Luffy encouraged his friend, telling him it wasn't foolish at all. In another part of the open sea, a beautiful girl named Nami was struggling for survival on a small boat with a treasure chest. Two pirates saw an opportunity and decided to help her, hoping for a share of the reward from the chest. "Hey, haven't you heard the teachings of Master Huan?" Nami said, "If you don't work and expect to eat, you might as well go sell joint pain medication in Vietnam." Nami thanked the pirates for rescuing her and then gracefully sailed away on a larger ship, following the direction of the wind. Luffy, on the other hand, had arrived at Navy Base 153. But before entering the base, they decided to grab a meal at a nearby restaurant. Zoro and Nami were also at the same bar. When Nami saw a handsome guy, she couldn't resist and offered him some of her food. However, she accidentally bumped into a rude Navy thug who promptly crushed her pastry. Zoro sat down, picked up a mushroom and rice dish from the ground, and told Nami it was delicious. Zoro offered the dish to the Navy thug as an apology, who then approached him with a hostile attitude, asking if he knew who he was. Zoro, with just the hilt of his sword in his bare hands, easily defeated all the wicked Navy men present. During the scuffle, Nami swiftly incapacitated one of them and stole his Navy uniform. Zoro, now holding a blonde man by the hair, interrogated him and learned that his father was Captain Morgan. Zoro took him to meet his father, who wanted to turn in wanted pirates for a reward. However, due to their recent altercation with the Navy, Morgan decided to tie Zoro up outside for 7 days and nights without food or water as punishment. Zoro agreed because he needed the money and said he would catch up on sleep in the meantime. One of the nasty Navy men taunted Zoro and took his white sword, suggesting that he would die there, eaten by beasts. Nami, disguised as a Navy officer, entered the Marine headquarters, while Zoro was feeling down. Suddenly, Luffy emerged from a drain below, and they greeted each other, though not without some tension. Zoro shared with Luffy about a promise he made a long time ago, and Luffy expressed his interest in having Zoro join his crew, but Zoro seemed indifferent. Seeing his swordsman friend in distress, Luffy decided to help him without expecting anything in return. After releasing Zoro, Luffy quickly resumed his quest to find a map to the Grand Line, leaving Zoro to sort out his own path. While Nami was inside the Marine headquarters, searching for a map, she was discovered by someone she had previously fought. Facing this opponent alone, Nami had her hands full. Luffy, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation, came to Nami's aid. Together, they headed to Captain Morgan's office to find the map to the Grand Line. As Nami and Luffy discussed the need for a plan, they unexpectedly came face to face with Captain Morgan, wielding his massive hammer. The eccentric pirate son of Morgan was busy admiring himself in the mirror, holding Zoro's sword. Just as he was reveling in his vanity, Zoro entered the room to reclaim his sword. With Nami's quick thinking, she told Morgan that Luffy was a prisoner she was escorting, and they were in the process of releasing him. Morgan didn't suspect a thing and left the room. During this brief moment, Nami managed to steal the key to her restraints. Impressed by Luffy's agility and his thieving skills, he invited Nami to join him. As they explored the surroundings, Luffy accidentally stumbled upon a hidden door containing a safe. Morgan received word and rushed to the scene, smashing the door. In a desperate move, Luffy and Nami decided to carry the safe and jump to safety from a high ledge, a daring plan that took Nami by surprise. The Marines quickly closed in, and Zoro, who had already recovered his 3 swords, was about to exit the door but saw that Luffy was struggling. So, driven by his sense of honor as a swordsman, Zoro turned back to assist Luffy. Captain Morgan emerged, and Zoro and Luffy teamed up to confront him. They engaged in an impressive combat display but realized that Morgan was a formidable opponent. They decided to switch roles, with one engaging him head-on while the other attacked from a lower position. Zoro tied a bandana to his forehead and drew his third sword, which he clenched between his teeth. Luffy charged in with a powerful headbutt, allowing Zoro to move in and finish the battle. Nami was contemplating how to get the safe out of the room when Zoro unexpectedly carried it on his back. This act impressed Nami, making her realize that working with these two was quite convenient. Together, they boarded their ship and set sail. The ugly pirate was still persistent, but Kobe knocked him out with a single blow. Luffy offered Kobe a chance to join them, but Kobe declined, now wanting to do things on his terms because he aspired to become a marine. In a distant place, Vice Admiral Garp received news of the appearance of pirates and the theft of a Grand Sea route map by a pirate with a straw hat. Meanwhile, Luffy, who had just acquired new devil fruit powers, was enthusiastically training but inadvertently caused chaos in a bar. He blew up and smashed everything. The bar's owner, an older sisterly figure, told him that there were many types of devil fruits with unique powers beyond just the rubber fruit he had. Luffy was delighted by his newfound ability and wanted to prove his strength to his idol, Shanks. However, Shanks refused Luffy's request and revealed that if they set sail on the Grand Sea route to find One Piece, their ship might never return to this place. This news left Luffy disappointed, and he left in search of a crew to fulfill his dream. Out at sea, Nami was trying to open a safe, while Luffy kept talking about his life and ambitions. Annoyed, Nami threw her hat at him, silencing him momentarily. Luffy dismissed the hat as trash, but to Nami, it was a precious treasure. After Nami successfully opened the safe, they discovered a Grand Sea route map inside. Zoro, on the other hand, didn't find any gold or silver in the safe, only a piece of paper. Nami explained that this piece of paper was worth more than gold and silver because it contained knowledge, and knowledge was eternal. Luffy looked at the map without knowing where it led to, feeling that his crew needed someone with navigational skills. Nami was trying to educate her crewmates about the value of knowledge, but outside, the sky was filled with fireworks creating a smokescreen. While still in his right mind, Luffy took the Grand Sea route map and concealed it within himself. All three of them found themselves inside a wooden crate. Nami believed they needed a well-thought-out plan to escape, but Luffy had a different idea. He noticed the pirate flag and concluded that their captor was a fellow pirate. Since they were all pirates, Luffy wanted to step out and negotiate like men. However, Nami didn't think that the person in front of them was just an ordinary pirate. She underestimated Luffy, thinking he was merely a rubbery guy with stretching abilities. When they escaped from the crate, they found themselves in the center of a circus. The citizens here were all bound and forced to be unwilling spectators. Buggy entered and introduced himself as the captain. He blamed the three unknown individuals for stealing his chance to shine and taking the Grand Sea route map. Luffy continued his speech about confronting evil, declaring himself as Monkey D. Luffy, the future Pirate King, which made the audience laugh uncontrollably. Nami stepped forward, promising to give Buggy a rare talent, the newfound talent of the East Blue. She threw Luffy's hat into the sky and quickly rushed outside, only to find that the town had been completely destroyed. Shortly after, she was captured once again. Garp had arrived at Marine Base 157 and had his first encounter with the new Marine recruit, Kobe. Zoro was captured and tied to a spinning wheel, while Nami was locked inside a birdcage. Although Zoro initially had conflicting views on the idea of sharing fortunes and misfortunes, when he heard Luffy's desperate cries, he decided to cooperate to escape. However, Luffy, outside, seemed quite relaxed and not in any pain. Buggy, on the other hand, was frustrated because he had been interrogating Luffy for a long time, and Luffy refused to give up the Grand Sea route map. He took Luffy's straw hat because he recognized it as Shanks' red hair. Buggy and Shanks used to be in the same pirate crew, and Buggy believed that Shanks had stolen all the glory that should have been his. He thought that Shanks was the one who had received everything. Buggy picked a boy from the audience to punish Luffy, making a joking comment that drew laughter from the crowd. However, his laughter was rather sinister. Luffy broke free from his chains and delivered a powerful punch to Buggy's head. It turned out that Buggy also possessed a devil fruit power that allowed him to split his body into parts, unaffected by any harm. He detached one of his flying arms and put Luffy to sleep with a punch. Inside the Buggy pirates' hideout, Buggy, riding a unicycle, punched Zoro for killing his younger brother. Not only that, Zoro had been hunting down Buggy's crew members from one area to another. Zoro's most notable feat was beheading one of Buggy's crew members to claim a reward of just one jack. Buggy used his unicycle to spin around and around, torturing Zoro with his knives. Meanwhile, Kobe had a private meeting with Vice Admiral Garp to discuss his involvement with the pirates in attacking this marine base. After questioning, it was revealed that the person who had helped him significantly was Luffy. Garp was pleased with Kobe's honest response because, despite their personal relationship, they had to face justice if they were pirates. He welcomed Kobe into his team and decided to join him in pursuing the pirate known as Luffy, the Straw Hat Pirates captain. Back in the past, while Luffy was feeling down about Shanks leaving, the troublemaker who had previously confronted him returned, this time targeting Luffy due to their previous altercation. Shanks stepped in and warned the troublemaker not to mess with him, saying that he could endure it, but messing with his friends would cross the line. In no time, Shanks and his crew showcased their superior abilities, easily defeating the troublemaker's gang. However, during the fight, Luffy disappeared. In the present, when Luffy woke up, he found himself trapped in a barrel filled with seawater, which was draining his strength. As long as the barrel was filled with seawater, Luffy couldn't use his powers. Luffy believed that his crewmates would come back to rescue him and wasn't too worried. However, the seawater continued to rise, and Luffy started to lose consciousness, recalling memories from the past. Just as the water was about to submerge him completely, Luffy was captured by the troublemaker and taken onto a boat. When the troublemaker intended to kill Luffy, a sea monster appeared and swallowed him whole. Luffy, unable to swim due to the effects of eating the devil fruit, was in a precarious situation. Shanks arrived just in time to rescue him. The sea monster attacked, and to protect Luffy, Shanks used his own arm to shield him. With just a few words, Shanks frightened the sea monster away. Luffy watched this scene and blamed himself for causing all this trouble. This incident likely deepened Luffy's love and admiration for his mentor, Shanks. Zoro, despite being mocked and taunted, remained steadfast and fearless. He had changed since meeting Luffy and now had a philosophy to live by: when you're close to the mud, you might as well get dirty. The guy who had been ridiculing him was taken aback when Nami suddenly struck him, and Zoro seized the opportunity to choke him into unconsciousness. Zoro asked about their plan, but Nami, who was fed up with their captors, didn't care anymore and just hit anyone she could. Meanwhile, Luffy was seemingly losing consciousness outside, but his crew came to rescue him just in time. Due to excessive water intake, Luffy vomited the precious map. However, despite having the valuable map in front of him, Luffy was more interested in retrieving his old, tattered hat. Zoro, on the other hand, went to confront Buggy and attacked him. Buggy split his body to avoid the attack, but Zoro sliced him into pieces, leaving Buggy in disarray. Luffy warned Buggy not to mess with him but said he would let things slide. However, if Buggy messed with his friends, he would fight to the end. With a single punch, Luffy sent Buggy flying. Buggy began to split his body and launched a relentless attack on Luffy. After Luffy punched his hat away, Buggy attempted to strangle him with his hands. Observing the situation, Luffy signaled Nami to look at some barrels. Then, piece by piece, they put Buggy's separated body parts into a chest. Buggy lost the battle and resorted to cruel taunts, but Luffy paid no attention as he proclaimed himself to be the future Pirate King. Luffy extended his arms, grabbed Buggy's butt, and delivered a powerful punch, sending Buggy flying towards the horizon. Luffy handed the map to Nami and proceeded to release the captive townspeople from their restraints. After receiving guidance from Kobe, Garp took the opportunity to reprimand Morgan and publicly shame him in front of the community as a warning. Garp emphasized the importance of maintaining the proper standards within the Marines. He declared that they would now search for Luffy's crew together. Luffy was offered delicious food by the local townspeople, but he declined, believing that they needed it more than he did. However, his hunger got the best of him, and he returned to have a light snack. As Shanks prepared to leave, Luffy began to mature and express his determination to become a great pirate captain, rather than being a crew member. Once he was more mature, he envisioned traveling across the 5 oceans, recruiting exceptional crew members, and forming the greatest pirate crew in the world. In response to Luffy's determination, Shanks gave him his most treasured hat as a gift, with the condition that Luffy would return it to him once he became a great pirate. While others saw the hat as trash, to Luffy, it was always a treasure. Nami had also repaired the hat for Luffy, emphasizing its value to him. Shanks had once told Luffy that if the path he was on became too easy, he might be heading in the wrong direction. With these thoughts in mind, the three continued their journey towards the Grand Line, while Nami pondered something inside. In the village of Syrup, 7 years ago, the adorable boy with a long nose, Usopp, had the job of ringing a bell to announce potential pirate attacks to the villagers. Now that he's grown up, he still enjoys his role as a town crier, even though there haven't been any pirate attacks on the village. On the ship, Luffy, after some artistic efforts, managed to draw a pirate flag. He proudly showed it to Nami, but she wasn't impressed. When he showed it to Zoro, he also didn't pay much attention. Zoro, on the other hand, noticed that the bathroom was broken, but he wondered why a ship would have a toilet. When Nami went to check, she found her belongings soaked in water. This led to an argument between Nami and Zoro, but Luffy intervened and named their pirate crew the Straw Hat Pirates. Now, they needed a new ship. Nami consulted her dictionary and found that the Gecko Islands were the closest to their location before their old ship sank. Zoro, meanwhile, suggested they look for a ship with a toilet. On the other side, Garp was sailing with the newly recruited crew members. The Straw Hat Pirates had reached an island, and luckily for them, this island was renowned for shipbuilding, so they had plenty of options, provided they had the money. Meanwhile, Buggy, after his bitter defeat, decided to take matters into his own hands and went to find his body parts stored in a chest. A subordinate of Arlong came to the island, but Buggy didn't want any trouble and had no interest in joining forces with others. The three Straw Hat Pirates were busy searching for a ship. Zoro wondered about the ship's price, while Nami, being the one without money, was the one inquiring about prices. Luffy initially thought Nami had money but later realized her intention was to steal a ship and leave. Luffy, being opposed to stealing, wasn't on board with Nami's plan. She then suggested another approach, convincing the ship's seller. Luffy found a ship he liked after exploring the area, and it turned out to be a ship belonging to a close friend of Usopp. This ship was fast, fully equipped, and even had a toilet. Unfortunately, it wasn't Usopp's ship, but it belonged to his closest friend in the world. This friend not only owned the ship but also the shipyard, making her incredibly wealthy. Garp noticed that Kobe had a keen interest in chess, so he invited him into the ship's cabin to play chess since Kobe seemed to know all the basic rules. Usopp, on the other hand, led Luffy and the others to a massive mansion where only a few servants lived. For some special reason, Usopp couldn't take them through the main entrance but had to use a side entrance. It seemed that the people here weren't very fond of guests, especially Usopp. However, the young lady of the house came out joyfully when she saw Usopp and warmly invited Luffy and the others inside for a meal, as it was her birthday. So, everyone was taken to bathe and change into historical costumes to celebrate her birthday. Usopp went into the young lady's room to tell her imaginative but heartfelt adventure stories. Even though the stories might have been a bit exaggerated, the young lady found them amusing, and I couldn't help but laugh too. While having fun, the young lady suddenly sneezed due to her illness. She was still happy because, even though she was sick, there was medicine to treat her, and she enjoyed the adventurous tales Usopp told. In the extravagant dressing room, Luffy didn't know what to wear, and Nami didn't have much to choose from, which drew some disappointed comments from the two gods. Luffy made a bet with Nami that he could convince Miss Kaya to give them a ship. Nami argued that wealthy people never gave anything away. They made a bet that if Luffy lost, he would follow Nami's suggestion and become a real pirate by stealing a ship and leaving the island. The dinner prepared by the servants in the mansion was extravagant and special, with every detail carefully attended to. The head butler was so particular that he even discarded a slightly dirty glass, wanting everything to be perfect for the evening. Meanwhile, Kobe was still engrossed in chess games with Vice Admiral Garp inside the ship. After a defensive game, Kobe lost, and Garp attributed it to Kobe's fear of attacking and his self-doubt in his winning moves. Garp used this as a teaching moment to emphasize the importance of decisiveness in battles, whether against pirates or in chess. Kobe, heeding Garp's advice, won the next game. Garp further instructed Kobe that, like in chess, dealing with pirates required swift and decisive actions to eliminate them swiftly. Later that night, everyone gathered for Miss Kaya's birthday celebration. Zoro found the head butler strangely familiar, possibly having seen him in some newspaper or Fubbo place, maybe even on his friend list. Mary immediately approached Kaya, eager to discuss matters related to the shipbuilding dock but was interrupted by the head butler, who insisted that today was for celebration. They all proceeded to the dining room, where Luffy, in his typical fashion, devoured the entire table's worth of food. When Kaya tried to take a piece, the head butler stopped her. Luffy expressed his interest in buying a ship upon learning that Miss Kaya would inherit the shipyard, as her parents had passed away a long time ago. Kaya had heard this information from Usopp, who had told her that everyone was sailors. Luffy corrected him, emphasizing that they were pirates. Luffy then began to recount their adventures, passionately sharing their journey. He held up his wine glass and spoke about his dream of becoming the Pirate King, promising to cherish any beautiful ship he found as a trusted companion on his journey. As the story progressed smoothly, Kaya suddenly fell ill, and the head butler promptly interrupted and took her away to rest. While Garp was engrossed in his chess game, news arrived that they had found the flag of the ship left behind by Luffy and his crew. After analyzing the situation, they decided to make a stop at Gecko Island, the nearest location. Garp immediately ordered Kobe to lead a group to capture Luffy and prove his worth. In the basement, the head butler, upon realizing that the shipyard lawyer had discovered he had transferred Kaya's assets to himself, decided to take matters into his own hands to seek justice for the unfortunate girl. In this world, might often equated to power, and the head butler used his cunning to disappear and reappear from behind, delivering a lethal strike with his clawed fingers, killing the shipyard lawyer. Back in the world of pirates, Buggy, after being intimidated by Arlong, used Luffy's name as a shield against Arlong's threats. He accused Luffy of disrespecting the fishman and even introduced Arlong to Luffy's infamous pirate crew. Seizing the opportunity for free advertising, Buggy boasted that he had eyes everywhere and could help Arlong. But before he could say more, he too was apprehended. In the mansion, the two butlers were busy searching for food and wine, each finding what they were looking for. Nami was also on her own mission, searching for valuable items in the mansion. While rummaging through the house, she accidentally stumbled upon Kaya's room. After some discussion, Kaya, the wealthy heiress, decided to donate some of her belongings to the crew, no longer needing the extravagant items in her home. Nami saw this as an opportunity to take the valuable items openly. Meanwhile, Usopp displayed his impressive slingshot skills in the kitchen. Luffy invited Usopp to join their crew, but he declined, feeling that Kaya needed him. Their relationship was built on friendship above and love underneath. Kaya's parents had faced a tragic incident and perished at sea, a story that resonated with Nami, who had lost her own family. Usopp, however, wondered if Kaya had any romantic interest in him, but he had to consult his fellow single and experienced brothers. Usopp told stories of his remarkable father, Usopp, which excited Luffy, as Usopp was a member of Shanks' crew. Zoro, in need of more alcohol, was led down to the wine cellar by Usopp. Left alone in the kitchen, Luffy finished off a pot of soup, unknowingly consuming the poison hidden within. In the wine cellar, Usopp was shocked to find the corpse of Mary. At that moment, the head butler revealed himself. Zoro recognized him as Kuro, the former captain of the Black Cat Pirates and a notorious pirate on the wanted list. Zoro rushed towards Kuro, but he swiftly dodged and disappeared, allowing his henchmen to attack Zoro. Usopp, with a quick turn of his leg, managed to escape from the danger. Nami had a heart-to-heart conversation with Kaya, during which she advised everyone to lead their own lives and not let others control them. Nami realized that Kaya was stronger than she had initially thought. Zoro and Mary were thrown into a nearby well. Usopp attempted to seek help but was met with disbelief from the villagers. As a child, Usopp would often tell lies in the hope that his father, Usopp, would hear them and return to meet him and his mother. While crying by the well, Kobe arrived and expressed his belief in Usopp. However, Morgan's son, a fellow villager, accused Usopp of lying, claiming that Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates had been killed by Usopp's father years ago. Initially considering leaving, Kobe and the others decided to rush to Usopp's aid when they heard him mention Luffy. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Nami found Luffy unconscious and attempted to carry him away. However, upon realizing that someone was approaching, she hid in a closet and witnessed an interesting turn of events. Outside, the Marines, following Usopp's directions, arrived at the mansion. The head butler, believing they had come to capture Luffy, had him brought out. Despite Kobe's belief in Usopp, no one had any evidence to support his claims, so they were dismissed. Kuro continued to deceive the Marines, who believed his lies, while Usopp, feeling frustrated and unheard, ran off to voice his grievances. Zoro, trapped in the well, continued to search for a way to escape. He reminisced about his past, particularly a duel with his close friend, Kuina, from 7 years ago. In the village of Shimotsuki, Zoro had lost a fierce sword fight against Kuina, his friend. He was frustrated and believed that it was because of his old, weak swords. He wanted to have a real sword fight to prove his worth. Back in the present, Usopp arrived at Kaya's room. Amid the chaos, Usopp tried to save Kaya by claiming that the head butler was a wicked pirate. However, Kaya dismissed his claims and ordered him to leave. Feeling that he had done enough running away, Usopp decided to stay and protect Kaya until she was safe. Upon learning that Nami had escaped, the Black Cat Pirates locked down the mansion to prevent her from leaving. Nami, Usopp, and Kaya met up and, together, they ventured into a secret passage to escape. While on the way, Kaya accidentally made a loud noise, alerting Kuro, who began attacking the walls with his claws. Despite their efforts, Kaya got injured. In the well, Zoro recalled his past, particularly the time he had spent as a child, practicing swordplay with his dear friend. He remembered how they had fought with 2 swords each and how it had always ended in a draw. Zoro then engaged in a sword fight with Kuina, exchanging basic sword techniques. However, he was easily defeated and had his swords taken away. Zoro admitted his defeat and asked her to kill him, but she didn't. Instead, Kuina encouraged Zoro, saying that one day he would surpass her in every way. She believed that girls could defeat boys in combat, but women couldn't defeat men. With those words, she left. Zoro called out to her, promising that they would both train relentlessly and challenge each other again someday, with one of them becoming the greatest swordsman in the world. The scene shifts to Kobe and the Navy trying to capture Luffy and take him to the base. Luffy, in his dazed state, has vomited out all the poisonous soup from his body. On the other side, Nami's group has safely reached the secret chamber in the mansion, trying to find a way to escape. Meanwhile, Kuro is still lurking around, hunting for his prey. One late afternoon, with the bright sunlight shining, Zoro is still waiting for his friend Kuina to arrive for their training session. His master arrives and delivers the grim news that Kuina has passed away in an accident. On the day of Kuina's funeral, Zoro goes to request his master to allow him to take Kuina's sword with him. With the determination to fulfill his promise to Kuina of becoming the greatest swordsman, Zoro, with sheer willpower, manages to climb to the top of a well using only his bare hands. While the Navy officer is boasting and taunting Luffy, Zoro arrives and intervenes to rescue him. Zoro's lapse in direction is evident as he unintentionally ends up at the scene. Kuro had made his way to the secret chamber and captured Nami's group. While searching for them, he taunted and insulted Kaya and her family. Unable to bear it any longer, Kaya decided to join Nami in confronting him. However, Kuro easily subdued them with the powers of his devil fruit. Usopp tried to rescue them by shooting his slingshot, but it had no effect. Meanwhile, Zoro, at the mansion, encountered two members of the Black Cat Pirates. Zoro faced them alone, wielding both of his swords. Luffy arrived just in time to help rescue everyone. However, Kuro, with his swift movements, managed to attack Luffy, leaving him helpless. Kuro continued to mock Luffy, but Luffy, determined to protect his dream, didn't waver. He closed his eyes and focused on sensing Kuro's movements. With this newfound awareness, Luffy landed a punch that sent Kuro sprawling. On the other side, Zoro defeated the two pirates easily. Kuro, angered by Luffy's challenge, launched a furious attack, but the more he fought recklessly, the more his weaknesses were exposed. Luffy grabbed both of Kuro's arms, pulled them apart, and delivered a powerful punch that sent Kuro flying far into the distance. After being rescued by Luffy and the others, Kaya decided to express her gratitude by gifting them the finest ship she owned. In memory of her late butler, Mary, Luffy named the ship, Going Merry. Usopp accepted Luffy's invitation to join their crew as a new crew member, promising to share true adventures with Kaya rather than just telling her tales. They exchanged farewell kisses, and Usopp, along with the rest of the group, set sail on the Going Merry to explore new lands. Kuro, however, had not been killed and managed to swim away on a boat to escape. On the ship, Usopp and Luffy playfully argued over who should be the captain, even making the usually serious Nami burst into laughter. Their enjoyment didn't last long, as Navy cannons were seen approaching in the distance, led by Vice Admiral Garp, who happened to be Luffy's grandfather. Seeing his grandfather brought back memories of Luffy's past, where his dream of becoming a pirate was shattered when Garp decided to train him to become a Navy officer. The Going Merry was attacked by the Navy cannons, and the crew considered counterattacking. However, thanks to Usopp's constant talking and exaggerations, he managed to annoy and distract the Navy officers, causing their ammunition to go to waste. Vice Admiral Garp wanted Luffy to surrender and be tied up, but Luffy defiantly replied with a resounding, "Never," staying true to his nature. This infuriated Garp, who threw a cannonball at them barehanded. Luffy took a deep breath, inflating his body, and then sent the cannonball flying back at the Navy ship, damaging its sails and slowing it down significantly. The Going Merry then sped into a foggy area for cover. In this mist, Nami couldn't use her navigation tools, so the first priority was finding a hiding place. The second priority, which would become a hot topic in the world press, was the revelation that Luffy's grandfather was Vice Admiral Garp. Nami asked the first mate and swordsman, Zoro, to inquire about it. Zoro, following Nami's request, approached Luffy and asked how he felt about the recent battle. Luffy responded with a simple, "I don't." Zoro then turned back to report that Luffy was fine, sparking an emotionally charged conversation between the two friends. While repairing his straw hat, Luffy caught a delicious scent in the air. Luffy's keen sense of smell allowed them to escape the fog and discover a massive floating restaurant called the Baratie on the sea. With few words exchanged, Luffy led the crew into the Baratie for a hearty meal. Upon entering, they were told that they would have to wait for 3 weeks to get a table. However, Nami's financial prowess came into play, and with a little bribe, they were immediately seated. Inside the restaurant, the suave, blonde-haired gentleman was none other than Sanji. He was busy preparing a dish that was both enticing and tantalizing, reminiscent of rural charm. However, this particular dish was not on the menu and was promptly thrown into the trash by the head chef. Sanji was then kicked out of the kitchen and assigned to work as a waiter. He quickly changed into elegant attire. As he stepped outside, a brawl had erupted, and what Sanji despised the most was people who didn't respect food. So, he sprang into action, landing a few punches that swiftly put two unruly troublemakers in their place. In Sanji's world, it was alright to mess with him, but never mess with the food he cherished. Afterward, Sanji made his way to Luffy's group's table, casually glancing at the menu. However, when he spotted the lovely Nami at the table, his demeanor did a complete 180-degree turn. His eyes seemed to widen in amazement. When Nami asked him about it, Sanji responded by saying that her beauty had momentarily blinded him, using his own unique style of flirting. The Navy ship on this side was heavily damaged, and Kobe suggested seeking assistance. However, Garp dismissed the idea, went into a room, and made a call to one of the members of the 7 warlords of the sea, Mihawk. Mihawk was calmly taking on dozens of opponents, and Garp requested his help in capturing a new and inexperienced pirate named Luffy. During their conversation, Mihawk casually warned that he could destroy the entire ship in just 5 seconds. The ship's captain confronted Mihawk and fired a gun at him, but it proved futile. With just his sword, Mihawk effortlessly sliced through the bullets and defeated the captain. Garp then assigned Mihawk the task of capturing Luffy alive. Back at the restaurant, Luffy's group had some differences in opinion due to Luffy hiding the fact that his father was a vice admiral. Nami and the others had their own perspectives. When the bill arrived, Luffy signed it with a flourish, not as a crazy debtor but rather with the statement that he would pay when he became the Pirate King, including both the principal and interest. The head chef had a faster way of settling the bill, which was to put Luffy to work washing dishes in the kitchen for a year to pay off the debt incurred by the entire group's hearty meal. While in the kitchen, Luffy accidentally stumbled upon a discarded dish and tasted it, his face lighting up in delight. Outside, Nami, Zoro, and Usopp were leisurely enjoying some drinks. Nami noticed Luffy's reckless actions without a plan and became slightly concerned. She stood up, invited the other two for a drink, but instead approached the bar to inquire about how to get to Konami Island. As she started asking, an older gentleman approached and informed her that there would be a ship ready to set sail at dawn, and all they needed was money. Kobe on this side asked the young man with the upturned hair about Mihawk, and he shared a story from the past when there were 7 incredibly powerful pirates known as the world's most notorious terrorists, with Mihawk being one of them. To maintain peace and avoid dangerous confrontations, a cooperative agreement was reached. In order for these 7 infamous pirates to be considered allies of the Navy rather than terrorists, the world government agreed not to pursue them and allowed them to operate freely, even though their actions might be illegal, much like regular pirates. In return, they were required to undertake missions that the Navy didn't want to handle. Back in the kitchen, Luffy diligently finished washing the dishes, then struck up a conversation with Sanji, praising the dish he had prepared earlier as even better than those on the menu. It seemed that Sanji's dream wasn't just to be the head chef here, he longed to reach a place called the All Blue, where he could find rare ingredients from all the seas in the world and create the most delicious dishes imaginable. While they were sharing their thoughts, someone cried out for help from outside and entered the restaurant. This hungry individual begged for food, and Sanji, being compassionate, agreed to cook for him without demanding payment. Impressed by Sanji's cooking skills and kind heart, Luffy extended an invitation, suggesting that if the restaurant's head chef, Zeph, didn't appreciate him enough, he could join Luffy's crew. Luffy assured him that he would find One Piece and become the Pirate King. The young man, who was enjoying his meal, paused to offer advice. He was the sole survivor from a ship led by a captain with 50 vessels and 5,000 crew members who all perished while attempting the Grand Line. He advised Luffy to erase any memories of that terrifying ordeal if he wanted to live. Meanwhile, Zoro and Nami were outside, sharing their thoughts and reflecting on their respective pasts. At the Navy ship, Kobe approached Garp with the belief that the Navy was making a mistake by cooperating with pirates. Garp explained to the young recruit that he had been with the Navy for 50 years and could have become an admiral if he wanted, but it would come at the cost of his freedom. He would have to follow their orders, and in this world, there was no single set of laws that applied to everyone. Different rules applied to different people, and that's how things operated in this world. The world might not be fair, but the Navy stood between order and chaos. Meanwhile, Usopp, in his drunken state, encountered Mihawk. Upon learning that Mihawk was hunting for Luffy, Usopp cheerfully informed the rest of the crew about it. This was typical of Usopp. Upon meeting Mihawk, Zoro recognized him as the greatest swordsman in the world and immediately challenged him to a life or death duel, aiming to become the world's strongest swordsman. Mihawk found this intriguing and agreed to face Zoro at dawn the next day, with the condition that if Zoro won, he would take Luffy with him. Luffy had a heated argument with Chef Zeph about how Zeph was obstructing Sanji's dream. Just as tensions were rising, Usopp came to get Luffy, hoping the captain could prevent Zoro from engaging in a solo battle with a member of the 7 warlords of the sea. Nami, despite being quite tipsy, attempted to dissuade them, but Luffy believed that one shouldn't stand in the way of someone pursuing their dream. For Zoro, defeating Mihawk and taking the title of the world's greatest swordsman was of paramount importance. Nami expressed her concern for Zoro, fearing that he might die, and told him that she considered him a friend. However, Zoro didn't think that way, as during their earlier conversation while drinking, Nami had stated that she had no friends, and Zoro took her at her word. As dawn approached, Nami packed her belongings, including the Grand Line map, into a suitcase and prepared to leave. However, there was a sense of regret in her eyes. Upon encountering Luffy, Mihawk complimented his hat, but Zoro immediately cut him off and wanted to start the duel. Mihawk took off his necklace and grabbed a small sword, stating that he couldn't hunt a rabbit with a broadsword. Zoro attacked with both hands and swords, but Mihawk easily parried and sent him flying. Zoro continued to attack relentlessly and was pushed further away by Mihawk, but this only fueled Zoro's determination. In the end, he took a sword wound. Mihawk asked why Zoro wouldn't surrender, and Zoro replied that doing so would mean losing his dream forever. Impressed by Zoro's courage, Mihawk allowed him the honor of keeping his swords. Zoro then began to wield a third sword, assuming a legendary stance. He swung his swords and launched a final attack, but Mihawk effortlessly shattered both of Zoro's swords. Zoro, feeling humiliated, offered his body to Mihawk for one final strike. When Mihawk asked Luffy about his dream, Luffy stated that he wanted to become the Pirate King. Seeing the world in need of a few more audacious individuals and finding Zoro endearing, Mihawk spared both of them and left. Zoro, in a battered state, promised Luffy that he would never lose again and vowed to become the world's greatest swordsman. Nami, watching this scene, couldn't help but shed tears. Zoro was quickly taken inside by the others. When he remained unconscious and silent, Luffy, upon hearing Nami's plea to find a doctor, hurriedly set off to find one. Sanji was with Zeph, preparing ingredients for the upcoming opening of their restaurant. When Luffy rushed in, telling Sanji that their friend Zoro was in critical condition, Sanji immediately abandoned his work. Zeph, too, took the situation seriously and decided to assist in saving Zoro, as the nearest doctor was 2 days away. They brought along some fine wine and oranges, although the wine was kept for later use. Using a fish skin and Zeph's skillful hands, they provided initial medical treatment for Zoro's wounds. This was an old sailor's trick. Fish skin could help wounds heal faster and stop bleeding. Zoro had lost a considerable amount of blood, and Zeph's help could only go so far. Zoro was at a crossroads between life and death. In a desperate attempt to keep Zoro connected to the world of the living, the group resorted to singing and storytelling. Meanwhile, Mihawk had arrived at the Navy ship to meet with Garp. He revealed that he had released Luffy and was aware that Luffy was Garp's grandson. Mihawk speculated that this young boy might be the one to discover the One Piece treasure. This revelation infuriated Garp, who went into a destructive rampage, smashing everything in his room. Back on the ship, Sanji began cooking delicious meals for everyone. However, Luffy was not interested in food. He was fervently focused on cleaning Zoro's swords, believing that his friend would wake up. In this moment, Sanji shared a piece of Zeph's past with the group. He revealed that before opening their restaurant, Zeph had been a ship's captain who had to make tough decisions. Sanji then recounted the fateful encounter with Zeph for everyone to hear. In the East Blue, 9 years ago, Sanji worked as an assistant cook on a passenger ship named the Orbit. While he was casually cooking, news arrived that pirates were attacking the ship, and these pirates were led by Zeph. Despite being pirates, Zeph had a strong passion for cooking and even tasted and improved Sanji's soup. However, Sanji was displeased and confronted Zeph about adding to his dish. Zeph threatened to kill Sanji, but despite being frightened, Sanji defiantly declared that he wouldn't die and that he would search for the sea called All Blue. In the midst of their argument, a violent storm struck, causing the ship to be wrecked. Sanji woke up on a rocky outcrop with Zeph, the only survivors of the ship's crew. All the other crew members had perished. Now, they had no choice but to wait for a rescue ship. Zeph had 2 bags of food, one large and one small. He tossed the smaller bag to Sanji, believing that since he was 3 times Sanji's size, he needed more food. They took turns watching for passing ships while waiting for help. Days turned into weeks, and before they knew it, it was the 25th day. Sanji spotted a ship in the distance, but due to heavy rain, their cries for help couldn't be heard. As the days went by, the situation became increasingly desperate. They reached day 50 on the outcrop, and their meager supplies were running out. On the 70th day, Sanji saw Zeph's larger bag of food and, driven to desperation, decided to cross over and demand some of it. If Zeph refused, Sanji was prepared to kill him. With a knife in hand, Sanji cautiously approached Zeph and slit open the large bag of food. To his shock, he found no food inside. It was filled with valuable treasures like gold and gemstones. There was no sustenance to be found. Puzzled by why Zeph had survived this long, Sanji continued to explore and discovered that Zeph had amputated his own leg to survive. Despite this self-sacrifice, he had given all the food to Sanji, even though they were strangers. Zeph's reason for this was that they shared the dream of finding the All Blue, and if he didn't make it, he wanted Sanji to live on and achieve that dream, not only for himself but for Zeph as well. Back in the present, Sanji explained to Luffy the difficult decisions a captain has to make, and Luffy affirmed that even if it cost him both his arms and legs, he would save Zoro. Nami continued to tell stories to Zoro while Luffy approached and was scolded by Nami for not preventing Zoro from lying there. However, Luffy believed that he couldn't stop someone from pursuing their dreams. When he asked Nami about it, she responded bitterly, saying that she was grown up now and not everyone gets to chase their dreams, then walked away. Kobe cleaned up the room for Garp, and Garp made it clear that Luffy was his grandson. Kobe thought that Luffy was different, but he still had his own principles. Luffy was and would always be a pirate. Garp was frustrated, thinking that he couldn't just let Luffy remain an ignorant pirate. However, Kobe saw nothing wrong with it, and hearing Kobe's heartfelt words about Luffy, Garp began to understand that his approach had been wrong all along. Arlong's fishmen crew had also arrived at the restaurant to find Luffy. Zeph met them and made it clear that they wouldn't serve them for free. Nami, who had overheard everything, went inside to inform Luffy to leave. Upon hearing the news, Sanji was ready to defend the place. Luffy also wanted to fight because he had enjoyed the meals there. He handed the map to Nami for safekeeping and prepared to defend the restaurant. Luffy confronted Arlong, who had found his way there thanks to Buggy. As Luffy was about to leave, Arlong had attached his Jolly Roger to Luffy's hat, taunting him. However, he was quickly captured and stuffed into a bag by Luffy. Arlong proposed a deal, but Luffy refused to bow down to anyone. Zeph was attacked, prompting Sanji to rush over and engage the attacker. However, he was overpowered and sent flying. Luffy also charged at Arlong, but a single blow sent him flying out of the restaurant. Nami poured her heart out in Zoro's room, revealing why she claimed she had no friends. She didn't want those closest to her to get hurt because of her. Luffy, after initially being thrashed, launched a few counterattacks against Arlong but was doused with seawater, which weakened him. He was about to be finished off when Nami intervened, holding up Arlong's pirate mark and signaling with the Grand Sea Chart. Then she left, suggesting they didn't need to get their hands dirty and that they should let the ocean deal with Arlong. Thanks to her suggestion, Luffy managed to escape, and Sanji saved him. Sanji returned to the restaurant to clean up the aftermath. Zeph tried to kick him out, believing that staying here was akin to giving up on his dream. Sanji angrily left, vowing that he would join Luffy's crew to satisfy himself. Luffy sought out Zoro to confide about the recent battle, but Nami had already left. He also confessed that he needed her. Zoro woke up shortly afterward, pledging loyalty to Luffy from now on, promising to remain faithful until they find One Piece, even if it meant giving his life but keeping it short with anyone who crossed them. Before embarking on their journey to find One Piece, they decided to search for Nami. While packing, Sanji prepared to board the ship. At the restaurant, Zeph and the others walked out to bid him farewell. Both of them emotionally shared their last moments, with Sanji promising that he would never forget Zeph, who had once saved him. The next step was to find Nami. To do this, Luffy ingeniously grabbed Buggy's floating head onto their ship to facilitate interrogation. Usopp took control of the ship, following Buggy's instructions. While listening to Buggy's ramblings, Usopp realized the truth: not all clowns are funny. Buggy overheard and returned, but mistakenly insulted the tough Zoro, so he was put back into a barrel to befriend the knight. The three friends discussed their differing views on Nami, but Luffy, regardless of her choices, wanted to hear directly from Nami herself. When Nami was a child, she had a happy family with her mother and sister. In the present, she was playing cards with a group of unsavory fishmen, and of course, she won all their money. Nami then went to the room where Arlong's pirate maps were kept and reminisced about her past. From a young age, Nami had a strong passion for exploring and studying maps. She had once stolen a map book from a bookstore, which earned her a scolding from her mother. She hated poverty and felt that her current family was not her true one, as both her mother and sister were not her blood relatives. After being scolded by her mother, Nami ran deep into the forest, where her mother eventually found her. Nami's mother told her about their first meeting and how she had taken care of her. She used to be a marine who got severely injured in battle. However, she stumbled upon Nami and her sister hiding in a nearby area during the battle. Since then, she realized she needed to live to take care of the two children. Arlong arrived and ordered Nami to return to her former village, Kokoyasi village, to collect the taxes for him. Garp visited Zeph's restaurant to meet Luffy, but Luffy wasn't there, so he enjoyed a T-bone steak instead. Luffy's group arrived in Kokoyasi village, where they spotted Nami from a distance. Nami, after reconciling with her mother, had gone to return the stolen map book. However, her happiness was short-lived as Arlong's crew soon attacked the village. The villagers despised Nami, blaming her for joining Arlong's crew. Nami repeatedly scolded Luffy and urged them to leave, but Luffy noticed that not everyone in the village was afraid of her. Following Nami's directions, they found their way to the house at the end of the road, where Nami's sister lived. She initially threatened to shoot them, but Sanji's charm and flattering words convinced her to invite them inside. Later that night, Nami brought her collected tax money to Arlong. At that moment, a Marine Rear Admiral arrived to meet Arlong, mainly to collect bribes from him. Nami's sister revealed the truth about Nami to Arlong. When Arlong attacked the village, Nami's mother had hidden her two daughters inside their house. The tax Arlong demanded was 100,000 berries per person. Seeing food on the table, Arlong suspected there were other people living in the house. Due to their young age, Arlong decided to show leniency and demanded 50,000 berries per child. However, their mother had given all the money she had, and to ensure her adopted children's survival, she made the ultimate sacrifice, dying in front of them. Upon hearing the story, Luffy climbed onto the rooftop and spoke with Zoro. Feeling that Nami was a good person, just like the other members of their crew who had faced hardships and shown kindness in the face of adversity. On the other side, Arlong and the Marine Rear Admiral negotiated their corrupt deal. When Arlong threatened the Marine Rear Admiral, he quickly accepted less money and left. After concluding this deal, Nami subtly reminded Arlong of a promise he had made to her in the past. At the restaurant, thanks to Kobe's investigation, Garp learned the location that Luffy was heading to. Nami returned to the garden of her old house and unearthed her mother's grave. Inside, she found a stash of countless treasures and valuables that she had stolen. Her sister questioned her about the reasons behind her actions. When she was younger, Nami had sought out Arlong with the hope of joining him and helping him create maps. However, she had one condition: Arlong had to agree to buy back Kokoyasi village. Now, Nami had finally earned enough money to buy back the village and restore the freedom of its inhabitants. Nami's sister finally understood the truth and realized that they had been unfairly blaming Nami for all these years. Arlong had informed the Marine Rear Admiral about this, instructing him to find Nami and collect the 100 million belly she was holding. Nami ran away and, filled with hatred for Arlong, she cut the Arlong pirate's mark on her arm with a knife in the darkness of the night. Luffy arrived just in time to prevent Nami from harming herself. He put his precious straw hat on Nami and promised to help her, with a determined look on his face. Meanwhile, the Arlong pirates had also attacked Kokoyasi village in the distance. Because of her belief in the deal she had made with the fishman who betrayed her from a young age, Nami endured years of suffering, all to create maps that he desired in order to earn the 100 million belly needed to buy back her village. When the group returned to the devastated Kokoyasi village, the inhabitants came forward to apologize to Nami for not knowing about her silent sacrifice. Now, they wanted to join forces and go fishing with Luffy's crew. Nami tried to stop them, as she believed it was her fight alone, but Luffy insisted that this was the Straw Hat Pirates' battle. The Marine Rear Admiral with a cunning face was summoned to meet Vice Admiral Garp. He tried to manipulate the situation by falsely accusing Luffy of being behind the destruction of the village, but he didn't know that Luffy was a pirate with strong roots. In another scene, the Straw Hat Pirates arrived at the Arlong Pirates' base. Luffy and Nami went to the map room to find Arlong while leaving the rest of the crew to deal with the underlings. Zoro provided support for Luffy while attacking, and Usopp confronted a three-legged, six-armed fishman who quickly fled. Nami and Luffy reached the map room, which was where Nami had been imprisoned and had been released when she turned 12 years old. As they obtained the map, Arlong arrived to greet them on a beautiful day. Usopp skillfully dodged the bullets while being pursued by the gunmen in the forest. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji worked together in a synchronized attack, combining their techniques to create chaos in the virtual world. Inside the map room, Arlong taunted and belittled humans because he had previously enslaved their species. He also referred to Nami as a tool. Luffy, fed up with Arlong's nonsensical and insulting remarks, effortlessly snapped Arlong's nosebone sword in half. He then ordered Nami to leave so that he could deal with Arlong himself. In the forest, the gunmen continued to drink alcohol and shoot bullets at Usopp, but Usopp skillfully evaded his attacks. The two enemy officers with Sanji and Zoro engaged in both combat and banter. Buggy, realizing the dire situation, attempted to return to his own body to help them. However, he was intercepted and sent flying away, his plan foiled once again. Usopp pretended to be shot by the bullets thanks to his ketchup-soaked hat. Using one of his specially designed bullets, he aimed directly at a whiskey bottle, creating a dazzling explosion of light. Luffy, despite being struck and humiliated by Arlong, still managed to make Arlong's pride, Momu, cry. Luffy punched Arlong in the face so hard that he lost all his teeth. Arlong, unfazed by the loss of his teeth, instantly regrew a new set of sharp, iron-hard teeth. Zoro and Sanji outside also faced their share of challenges and were enduring the thrashing from their respective opponents. Luffy realized that Arlong was nothing without Nami, so he taunted him by smashing everything in the room that Arlong had painstakingly built. Luffy continued to provoke Arlong, dodging his attacks and further destroying what Arlong held dear. Outside, the despicable gunman began to speak ill of Nami, and Sanji couldn't bear it any longer. He removed his shirt and swiftly dealt with the enemy with a single kick. After the intense battle, Usopp, victorious and triumphant, returned to the scene. The two brothers had already cleared the area of enemies. As Nami ran out of the tower, Sanji joyfully greeted her. However, she surprised him by embracing two individuals behind her. It was an emotional reunion for the three of them by the riverside. Luffy unleashed a devastating Gum-Gum Gatling attack, landing a barrage of punches on Arlong, ultimately sending him crashing into the wall. In the climax, Luffy delivered a decisive blow by launching his leg high into the sky and performing a devastating move that sent Arlong plummeting 18 floors down to the depths of hell. This attack also led to the complete destruction of Arlong's base. The aftermath was a serene and tranquil atmosphere, but true heroes never die. Luffy stood up amidst the rubble, and the sight of their victorious captain brought smiles of pride and happiness to his crew and the people of the village. That evening, Sanji cooked his signature dishes for the villagers, while Usopp, well known for his storytelling, entertained everyone with his tall tales. However, their joyous celebration was interrupted when the Marines, under the command of Vice Admiral Garp, surrounded them. In defiance of the orders to arrest Luffy, Kobe stepped forward to oppose the Marines, joined by a courageous young boy from the island. Luffy faced his grandfather, Garp, and endured a series of light but powerful punches, each one sending him flying. Despite the beating, Luffy clung to a nearby pillar and lunged at Garp, but he was effortlessly thrown aside. Garp seemed to be testing Luffy, but the young pirate's defiant smile reminded Garp of the Pirate King, Gol D. Roger, and he couldn't help but be amazed by Luffy's spirit. Garp gave the order for the other Marines to capture Arlong's crew, and when a high-ranking officer expressed his disagreement, Nami swiftly knocked him unconscious with her staff. As morning broke, Nami sat by her mother's grave, sharing her thoughts and feelings. Her older sister arrived, and they both acknowledged that, despite everything, this place would always be their home. Luffy was enjoying some chill fruits when Kobe brought him some exciting news. Luffy had just received his first bounty as a pirate, and it was an impressive 30 million berries, a truly astonishing amount. Luffy hugged Kobe, and they encouraged each other to achieve their respective goals. Luffy returned to his crew to share the news, bragging about his new bounty, but he also cautioned them that this high reward would make them targets for bounty hunters in the Grand Line. Amid this mixed fortune, Luffy decided that they would no longer stay on this island but continue their journey to the Grand Line together. News of Luffy's bounty started to spread and quickly became the most popular headline. People who knew Luffy were thrilled to read about his exploits. On a remote uninhabited island, Shanks, the red-haired pirates, were taking some time to recuperate when Mihawk arrived. However, Mihawk didn't want to fight, as he felt that Shanks was not in peak condition for a battle. Instead, he presented them with a wanted poster featuring Luffy. The red-haired pirates celebrated this news and invited Mihawk to join in the festivities. Back on the Going Merry, the crew planted orange trees from Nami's home garden as a way to nurture her memory and make her feel that this ship was always her home and family. While Luffy had a small gift, the entire crew had a significant one for their captain. They raised the ship's sails, displaying the Jolly Roger of the Straw Hat Pirates, a flag Luffy had always dreamed of. Sanji brought out a barrel, and the crew gathered around. They each voiced their dreams and aspirations, shouting loudly in unison to embark on their grand voyage and find the One Piece treasure. Somewhere in a remote location, a figure lit a cigar and burned Luffy's wanted poster. Alright, the movie ends here. Please take 3 seconds to subscribe to our channel to support us. Thank you for watching our channel, and we hope to see you again in the next movie.